Hey guys, this tutorial will be about getting you used to using the pen tool and starting to train your brain and your hand to work together because there is a bit of a disconnect, or quite a lot of a disconnect when you start working with the tablets, because we're so used to being able to see the image come out of our pencil or pen, and there is quite a disconnect here. So what I'm going to get you to do is do some work with tracing a pre-existing image. One that has lots of curves is usually a little more difficult, so I'll get you to try there. If you find it's much too difficult, you can find a simple line drawing that'll work as well. I'm going to show you the steps you could take to get started. Again, this is just one way to start kind of practicing. I'm going to get you to go to File and click on New because we're going to open a new drawing tablet or drawing surface here. So I'm just going to change the name to Test Drawing. I'm going to open that up. Again, I'm using a gray background. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an image that I have saved. And I'm just going to find it. And it is down here. Oops. And there we go. So I'm going to use the Super Mario mushroom in order to kind of trace, because there's lots of circles and it's pretty simple overall, but actually we'll find out that it's not that simple. The other thing I'm doing is I'm using the select tool, which is at the very top here, and I'm going to grab, oops, I'm going to use my mouse actually. Gotta grab onto this image and hold onto it. So I'm left clicking and I'm dragging it, and I'm actually gonna bring it over and into my other, let me try that again. Drag it over and into my other surface. So I haven't let go, and in that new file, I'm just gonna drop it. So you can see it's quite small. And what I can do now, it's automatically wanting to transform it or give me the option to. It's also created a new layer, so it's not on the background surface. And what I can do is I can go to one of the edges here and I can just kind of drag it. If you hold Shift, I'm going to undo that actually. If you hold Shift, it's going to, oops, it's not going to want me to do that. If you hold Shift, it's going to make sure that you're dragging it proportionally. Because otherwise, and I'm just going to go back here, otherwise you could shift it and stretch it. So you can actually hold Shift as you drag, and then I'll keep it in the same proportion. So I'm going to hit Enter to confirm that I want it to transform to that, and I can move it around. What I'm going to get you to do next is create a couple new layers, because you're actually going to be tracing this image. So the quickest way to make a new layer is down here at the bottom. It kind of looks like a little post-it note with the bottom left-hand corner turned up. So you can click on that a couple times. I'm going to get a few different layers, and I'm going to name them. So this one I'm going to call Mushroom, or let's actually call it Original, because it will have a few mushrooms going. The next one let's call Sketch. And I'm going to leave the other ones unnamed. Actually, I'll call this one Ink, and I'll leave the other one unnamed. If you don't have one there, we can put it in later. What we're going to do is we're going to go back and click on the original, and we actually want to change the opacity of this. And you can do that. You have to make sure it's highlighted, so it should appear blue or a light blue depending on your version. And you're going to go up to opacity here, and you're actually going to use the slider to change the opacity. So as you can see, it's actually getting more and more light, that image. So that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to click on Sketch, and I might zoom in a little bit, but I'm going to try to sketch it. So I'm sketching it on this layer, but in reality, the original is on the other layer. It's just a little bit more difficult to see. So I'm going to go to my brush tool, and I'm going to pick a brush that's appropriate. I'm also going to ensure that my pressure is turned on and my opacity is turned on, because it's sketchy. So I want to, oops, I should show you how to do that. I want to make sure that it's not too dark yet. I'm not going to be creating the ink layer. So again, this is one way to do it. It's not the only way. If you do want to change colors, what you can do is these are little color swatches down here. You can actually click on one of them and you can see you get a wide range of colors. And you can actually change and pick a variety of different colors by using the slider, and you can see all the different colors that are available. So I want one that maybe is not quite jet black, just because I find that's very final looking. And I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to start kind of sketching it. So this is really a good, I'm kind of getting lagged here. It's good practice. And another thing you will probably note is that if you, and I'm going to turn up my brush size a little bit so you can see a bit better. If I'm drawing very slowly, I'm actually going to turn opacity off so you can see, it gets wiggly, but if you draw really quickly, my line looks really straight and crisp. So your goal is going to be to draw quickly and maybe short strokes versus this one really long, squiggly, not very confident stroke. So I'm going to turn the opacity back on. So even then with the opacity later, so it's a lot more difficult to get a beautifully straight line the slower I go. So that being said, I'm just going to go back into history and take away all this mess here that I've made, and whoops, go forward a little bit, and I'm just going to keep kind of playing here. Another tool that you're going to find is really useful, or not another tool, a shortcut, is Control Z is going to undo the last thing you've done. So as you're drawing, you might find that, again, I'm going to turn this down, you might want to undo what you've done, and you can do that easily by clicking Control Z. So if I don't like that shape, I Control Z and it'll take it away. And also put it back if you're hitting it too many times. So again, I'm going kind of sketchy. I'm doing fast, shorter strokes, and I'm just kind of practicing and my hand-eye coordination working with the tablet. So just kind of go through that. The circles are difficult to draw, so you want to go as quick as you can, and again, they don't have to look perfect. This is just practicing, and you are going to trace that up. If you want to go back farther than just the last thing you've done, as I'm doing here, the keyboard shortcut is Control-Alt-Z on the PC. So on the Mac, it's probably Command-Option-Z. I'll have to check that out. But you kind of can continuously do that. So I'm going to undo that. And again, this is just all about practice. So once you've done that and you have a decent looking kind of sketch here, and again, I'm doing it really quickly and really, oh, that's a bit too messy for me, and kind of messy, is you can actually get rid of this original layer. You can do that by deleting the layer or just clicking on the eye. So it'll actually hide it and we're just left with the sketch we created. As you can see, it's a lot kind of sloppier than I probably thought it was. Once you've pretty happy with your sketch, what you can do is turn down the opacity from that, and you can actually use that as kind of a guideline. It's almost like you're tracing it. And now I'm going to do kind of more defined hard lines. So what you can do is you probably want to turn the opacity pressure off. And I am going to click on this little symbol here. This is it turns it back to black and white. If you want to go quickly from black and white, you can hit this little arrow here as well. So I want to work in black. And now this is going to be a lot more defined and a lot darker. So again, this is a little bit less room for error. So you probably want to go quickly. And again, it's, my computer's really lagging, is you want to hit Control Z if you want to take your last step away. So we're kind of making more defined lines. And normally I wouldn't be drawing this out. As you can see, it's kind of squiggly and wiggly. But again, this is just kind of getting that practice with making defined lines. And as you can see, I haven't quite adjusted to the tablets either. They're newer to me, obviously, than the pencil, and I do find my brain does not really like it nearly as much as doing it by hand. And in reality, I would actually use a tool to create these circles so they look really well defined. But this is just a technique, and it's getting you into the idea of using layers. And we're going to end up painting using layers as well, because it is a lot easier to have your lines on one layer and your color on another one, because you have a lot more flexibility, and it just makes the painting process and so much easier. Again, there's so many different ways to do these, and this is just going to be a suggestion, and people are using different programs and doing different techniques, which is all fine, and it's all different ways of doing the same kind of thing. So again, if you want to grab a picture, I do recommend line drawings that will help you trace and go over that. We will work on that. And I think the next tutorial we'll do will be about maybe picking some colors and going through colors before we do start painting some of these images. And again, not the best looking image in the world there. I'm taking away the sketch there so you can see what's left over. All right.